I often think to myself, like, I'm just so fortunate on all of the statistics to be here that I'm willing to kind of lean in even to the roughest days and say, we will figure this out.
Welcome to Real Leadership, the show that cuts through the clutter to spotlight leaders who make, move, and process things in the real economy. This isn't about buzzwords or theories. It's about bold decisions, solving challenges, and the strategies driving industries that matter. I'm Jim Weaver, CEO of the Owner Group. In every episode, we get real about what it takes to turn vision into action and obstacles into opportunities. Let's go.
Welcome back to Real Leadership. Our guest today is Jill Wrobel, Executive Vice President and Chief Human Resource Officer at Brunswick Corporation, the largest global marine company and the parent company behind many of the world's leading marine brands. Jill leads Brunswick culture, talent, and operating strategy for more than 15,000 employees in 25 countries, supporting 60 brands. Under her leadership, Brunswick has been recognized as a Forbes Best Place to Work and a top U.S. News and World Report employer for employee experience. Jill is a seasoned HR and M&A transformation expert. She holds a bachelor's degree in mathematics and finance, which is interesting, with a minor in secondary education from the University of Illinois. And she is a fellow of the Society of Actuaries. Sounds like a fun group. She began her career at Pricewaterhouse before spending 8 years in executive HR roles at Walgreens Boots Alliance. She joined Brunswick in 2020 and now serves as CHRO. She co-hosts Brunswick's internal leadership podcast, Propelling Perspectives, which earned a 2024.com Gold Award in its inaugural year. Jill has also been named to Boating Industry's 2024 Women Making Waves list. Beyond her corporate work, Jill serves as treasurer, finance committee chairwoman, and board member at the Melanoma Research Foundation, bringing a personal perspective as a stage 4 metastatic ocular melanoma survivor and recipient of the MRF Courage Award. And she finds some spare time to get out on the lake with her family as a novice boat captain. So we want to welcome her today. Welcome, Jill.
Oh, that is such a lovely intro. Thank you so much. It's just a real privilege to be here.
Yeah, we're excited to have you. Okay, let's talk about Brunswick first. Of course, I recognize the name, and then in show prep, I'm always blown away at, I mean, you guys are massive. Give us the lay of the land, lay of the lake with
I like that.
Brunswick.
I'm going to use that. I love a good water pun too. So I like the lay of the lake. I haven't used that one yet. I'll take it forward. But yeah, Brunswick is so impressive. We are the largest marine company in the world, recreational marine, that is. And the 60 industry leading brands, I think, point to what make us special and also what makes it so fun to work here, because it is quite complicated. Some of the ones that you might recognize, or if you've got any marine listeners, is Mercury Marine Engines, made up primarily in Fond du Lac, Wisconsin, just north of where I am right now, is our largest division. We have 18 boat brands. Most recognizable are things like Boston Whaler and Sea Rays, which are these beautiful fiberglass boats that go on lakes and ocean waters, and also Lund fishing boats, which are used commonly up in the lakes of Minnesota as well as the lakes around the world. What most people may not appreciate is there is so much technology here at the company. The other divisions are really focused on things like fish finding through our Lowrance brands, or multifunctional displays, which are those beautiful kind of glass MFDs that show up in your boat, which under the Simrad brand. We have so many parts and accessories, anything from ladders to ropes and the like. And then what's quite special is, and I'm a proud Freedom Boat Club member, but we also have a division that's really focused on boating experiences. So if you might not want to own a boat, you can join a boat club, use them, rent them, find yourself a used boat through our boat brand Boteca and the like. And that really does go global. Freedom Boat Club, we just surpassed 440 locations globally with our newest location in Dubai. So it is truly a global business all connected to getting consumers out on the water.
Yeah, that's appealing, the freedom boat thing, because I really love boats, but yeah, the maintenance and all that is not as fun. I just kind of want to do the thing.
Totally. And I think it's a very real example of where, Brunswick steps in to solve some of those customer pain points, So as someone like you, we have lots of solutions for you to get you out on the water. And I like it because I am not the best. As you mentioned in the intro, I'm a novice captain. I'm not so good at docking yet. So I love the Freedom Boat Club employees who help you get out and back in the slips without too much pain. But some other things too that we solve for people is we just came out with something called Auto Captain, which is an autonomous docking feature. So for people like me who could use a little bit of extra help, we're commercializing that solution where you can press a button and have your boat dock itself. And I'm constantly reminded of just how hard that is in marine to deal with.
There's
all of the
nothing more
factors.
embarrassing, right? Like you got everybody watching you and the wind is blowing. You're trying to, oh man, yeah, that's, you're solving a good problem there. Who's this idiot in the boat? Is there a thread, think about why your customers choose you. You have so many different brands. Is there a unifying thread where you can say, this is why customers choose Brunswick, or is it more like brand dependent, do you think?
I think it's a little bit of both. I think the common thread for us is we're the most professionalized and we can use our size and scale to get some advanced technologies to the market quicker. I think there's a lot to be said about using the power of the Brunswick enterprise if we're working together to be able to do things that some of our competitors who are much smaller or much more narrow in focus, just for purposes of investment profiles, margins, and the like, wouldn't be able to move the industry forward. So that part feels very special, and we do it with exceptional quality and in such a great place to work that even when you're internal, you can move around the organization and work on so many different facets of the industry that even that stays very fresh in terms of why people would join us versus another competitor, because you could really navigate your career in a pretty unique way, just given the vast nature of our portfolio.
You have an interesting background for being a chief human resource officer. And I gave you a little bit of a hard time about the actuarial.
Everyone does. It's totally fine.
Yeah. I mean, but I sometimes I think, you had a math and finance degree, and you started out your career as an actuary, and now you find yourself in the people business. I think sometimes the most successful people they have unique combinations of talents and skills, and combining that, I mean, you're obviously you're a very people-oriented person. I mean, just immediately you feel that, but you have that math mind. That's unusual, I think, that combination. So how does your math mind impact your gig? What's the advantage that gives you in the CHR role?
It's interesting. I reflected on this quite a bit when I told my husband after he watched me sitting for all of these exams in my postgraduate life, because actuaries typically will sit for a lot of these certification exams that are pretty laborious. And he said, "You're not going to be an actuary anymore? What was that all for? Why did you become a math major and put yourself through that pain?" But I really credit both my math degree as well as the process of sitting for all these exams with just a different way to think. It really forces you to navigate problems on multi-dimensions, but then really just start chunking the problem up into what you know and what you can solve. And so it often provides a bit of that engineering mindset or a process mindset that I use every day, not only at work, but in parenting. I am the proud mom of both a budding teenager, he's 14, as well as a wonderful 10-year-old, 2 boys, to some of the ways in which I've approached my my health and my medical diagnosis, which you mentioned in the intro. Yeah. There's just so many things that I'm grateful for with the sustained training of how do you take something that seems kind of hard to digest and just over and over and over again be able to solve one kind of minor thing at a time. I feel like I use my math degree every day.
Maybe that's why I've had a hard time with teenagers. So I'm not strong enough in math. Seriously. So give us an example. Walk us through a situation like that. It's an interesting view because you have to. You're talking about 15,000 employees, and it's got to be personal, but it's also you got to look at the group, right? So give us an example of that.
Yeah, I think
if you can, I'm putting you on the spot.
No, it's quite all right. I think there's some obvious ways. There's a lot of numbers behind human capital programs, whether it's the more straightforward elements of how do we think about incentive plans like bonuses or equity awards, and what are some of the implications of how the business is or is not performing so that I can start to anticipate how that may or may not hit our employee base, all the way through kind of structured approaches on performance management and succession planning and workforce pipelining. I love to think about the workforce as almost like a game of chess, of particularly for some of the talent moves that we make at various levels of the organization. Like, what does this person need today, and how might they pick that up over time, and how does that leave more space for someone else, and how do we think long-term, but then take the next best step? So I think both examples, whether it's like numeric in terms of quantitative skills, if you are a very strong HR leader, you should still know the numbers behind what you're designing and what are some of the implications of the levers or the signals that you're reading of what could be impacted. But then also qualitatively, not everything can be transitioned into a formula, but you still use that same logic of like, well, what am I trying to solve? What do I know? What do I need to do next? And I think it's made us very successful with some of the talent and workforce planning scenarios that we've put forth, even at the most senior levels of the organization.
I think about the chess analogy too when it comes to folks. It's not perfect. It's not the perfect analogy, but just like a chess piece has certain things it can and can't do, moves it can be. People have unique talents, and you gotta. It's kind of an infinite kind of 3D chess scenario for sure when you're talking about large groups of large teams working together. Not to objectify, but I mean it is an interesting way to think about it. I've kind of fallen that analogy sometimes too, or that framework.
I'll build on that. What I actually really love about, I've been a leadership kind of junkie my whole life, including back from middle school and high school. So there's this other part of my personality that realizes that by definition, humans are irrational. Like they don't always have predictable behaviors too. So It isn't like it's not always a math equation. And so I think I've got sort of the interest and the patience of saying, all right, well, I should be able to present this opportunity to somebody. And if A plus B equals great opportunity, you should love it. But then sometimes you don't. Like, well, why is that? And how do we then use that for the next iteration of things? So I love the idea of the actual human resources of what you need and the people components to run businesses, because they don't always behave like you want them to behave.
Right.
But that's the coolest part of it, is then you can, there's always something kind of new to find out, and you learn through experience.
And they change over time.
People, absolutely.
Evolve and get better and learn new things. And you guys have won a lot of awards. Best Place to Work, Forbes, U.S. News and World Report recognized you for being a great place to work for like mental well-being. You've got a lot of diversity and inclusion accolades. You kind of, one thinks of those things as sort of the soft side of business, like creating that great environment. How do you connect that to the performance? Because you don't want to you're a boat company, you're not a hot tub. Being comfortable is not the goal, right?
I probably will not use that water pun analogy.
Yeah,
I like it. I like it.
But do you know what I mean? Like, we got to balance those quality of life things with the business needs to perform.
That's right.
So how do you connect those two things? How do you think those through?
Yeah, that's right. I do think it is helpful for us as we win the awards. They're I can't apply for them. That's like my favorite part. So there is not this process by which it's pay for play. It is very much reading signals on whether they kind of these publications scrape the internet of what they can find for what people are saying, or they survey people and they say, what do you like about working there? It is very helpful to attract talent and to retain talent. Many people will go onto those sites and want to validate, what type of culture they're joining. And it is the number one question I get from any employee at any level interview that I have, whether it's a C-suite leader that reports to the CEO or a frontline worker who is thinking about joining us, of like, well, what is it like to work there? Tell me about the culture. What can I expect? Am I listened to? Am I challenged? But not challenged so much that it feels, chaotic or tough? Am I growing? Do I have a sense of safety and security? Do you care about me as a person? Those results translate into, some obvious metrics like turnover. People aren't leaving, or they're not leaving for the fact that they don't enjoy the experience. But then also our brands, those 60 brands, they are so sensitive to someone who leads them. And the business results, whether they are, revenue or earnings or however we're measuring the success of those brands, have real payoffs if we have the right people and the right teams working there. And by definition, they need, a workforce underneath them that enjoys what they're doing and is learning in what they're doing. And so we've often found if teams are not engaged, whether we survey them through the engagement results or they're finding sort of pockets of information that would suggest to them it's not a great place to work, it has direct line impact to our brands in terms of what they deliver to customers and consumers and the like. I'd also offer that having a diverse set of individuals work and design our products really does also drive business results. And it's not necessarily just across traditional standards of, race and gender. You may have people who, like we started on this call, I have a perspective on not being a lifelong boater of what would resonate with me as to how we design these customer products. How are we thinking about that? Are we challenging this assumption? Some of our highest level rated awards that we've won on product were designed by two females, two female designers and some female engineers who came through and said, here are some of the things that are really resonating with us. That translates into business results, and having an environment where you're a great place to work for women, you're a great place to work for parents, you're a great place to work for mental health, helps attract and retain people who ultimately design the coolest marine products in the market.
Accomplishing diversity, equality, and inclusion directives can be challenging. Excelsior Staffing, a certified MBE providing staffing solutions for light industrial sectors, has been helping companies like yours find success since 2007. Strengthen your diverse team with Excelsior. ExcelsiorStaffing.com.
I think sometimes people think you either have culture or you have performance, but they should feed each other.
They should feed each other.
That's the goal, right?
I agree.
Yeah. How do you stay connected personally with what's happening kind of in the business? Do you have a means, or what's your strategy for doing that?
It's not going to sound fancy, but I often think, some of the ways in which we, design marine impact really often isn't. We travel a lot to get into sites, to meet employees, and the CEO, actually, Dave Folks, and I have quarterly business reviews. It's really sponsored by the finance department. It's more of a metrics-based business review, but we talk a lot about what's new, but we take time to meet with employees in groups of 10 to 15 in listening sessions, and you get loads of insights there of like what's really happening on the ground, what's on people's minds. And this is from anything from our amazing assembly workers who join us and they know how boats should be built or engines should be built, to salaried kind of team members who are in a variety of functional roles, whether that's IT to finance, legal, and the like. So that's one approach, is you just take the time to meet with people and say, how are you? How are things going? And what's one thing I can do to make your job a little bit better? And then you go do that. So that's one way. It doesn't sound fancy, but it's intentional.
I think that's like some of the best things are kind of the obvious thing like that. But
Yes.
it's easy to, be in a big building and lose touch, with the business. And you gotta get in it. You got to talk to people 100%. No, that's a great answer. I'm with you.
I also love the power of a good question, open-ended question, where you just ask people, even if we are at the corporate office, if we have a big meeting, and it actually happened earlier this morning, and the meeting from my perspective seemed to go really great. So I was talking to somebody in a regular one-on-one, and I just asked them, like, what's something that I don't know? What's happening behind the scenes? If I were to go to your location in a different country and ask the team there how they felt about that review, what do you think that they would share with me? And sometimes it matches what I think, and sometimes I say, oh, it's quite a bit different than what I thought. My last strategy, and this is usually where people open up the most, is I'm going to unveil my secret sauce here, so they're not going to do
That's
it anymore.
okay.
But
that's what we want.
maybe that means they'll actually listen to this podcast. I love going to industry shows that we're in. So part of, in terms of how we sell and promote our products, is we'll have boat shows or other forums in which we bring our products to market. The Miami International Boat Show, and these happen globally. And so I'll go. Sometimes people are wondering, like, why is the HR person here? But then I'm spending a lot of times with our employees in the booths. Sometimes they're our sales force or our engineers, or they're representing our products. And they're more often and more likely to open up in that setting with what's really on their mind, or a question that they have, or really a concern of something that they don't think is being addressed. That feels less threatening than like scheduling a call or just, sitting with 10 people kind of in a listening session. And that's been very effective too, because there's been things where, as you think about the messaging that we're sending at the corporate level, to drill it all the way down, sometimes it doesn't quite land like you thought it would.
Yes.
So someone's like, you shared this with us, but I don't understand what that means, or that sounds concerning. And it allows you the opportunity to be able to say, let me clarify, and then let me see if others feel that same way. And we can use the messaging in a way that can be, built upon for the future.
We were talking before we were rolling tape about a situation in your Walgreens days. I want to tee this up for you. So you had some inspiration from the U.S. Federal Trade Commission and a countdown clock that sort of I think tees up a good leadership story. Why don't you share that story with us? That was pretty fun.
Oh, I would love to. Yes, and you would normally not think of the U.S. Federal Trade Commission, or FTC, as inspiring my leadership story, but so my career at the time was very much focused on transactions, mergers and acquisitions, taking kind of typically two, it could be more, large organizations, and then fitting them together. And I would often be the HR lead seat on how do we actually get this thing to work, all the way from due diligence through integration, however that was defined. So I did that my whole time that I was at within Walgreens and Walgreens Boots Alliance. But the project that was really a pinnacle of my time there was when Walgreens wanted to buy the full chain of Rite Aid, which is a U.S. or a retail and pharmacy chain. And we were working back and forth with the U.S. government on what portion of the portfolio we could provide so that customers could still have the ability to shop for their goods as well as get their prescriptions in a way where there is kind of free competition.
Yeah.
And that was quite a doozy. Negotiating with the FTC and getting information from them in terms of what they want and what acceptable is it's kind of like asking your teenager, like, what do you want for dinner? And they don't know what they want, but they know what they don't want, but they only will tell you one bite at the apple, well, not Italian. And then I'll tell you in 3 weeks that it's also, not Chinese or not pizza. And so you're like, this is exhausting.
Yes.
So what I learned through that experience was we had to find different ways of motivating the due diligence teams and the groups of employees that were helping figure this out, because it was starting to get very frustrating. So we would bring in kind of funny ways, joy and leadership and things like that. And we attempted to inspire people by having a large countdown clock in the conference room, thinking that maybe there'd be this element of like, here's the next time we'll hear from the FTC, or here's the next major milestone that we'll have. It did provide some laughter in terms of us choosing to do so, but I don't know that I would choose to do it again, because when we talk about rational and irrational human behaviors, some people really did not like the pressure of the clock kind of ticking over their head. But I think it's illustrative of a way that we said we have to just think differently, and we've got to all pull together. And that resonates with me both in that example, how I approach my work here at Brunswick. Like, let's just keep trying things. And there's a bit of a resilience that gets built over time, but we can find joy in that. It may work, it may not. We may try strategies that provide some levity, and sometimes we'll learn to not do that again. I have not brought a countdown clock here to Brunswick. And that's also super applicable in my personal life too, based on lessons I've learned in my own personal journey, or even I'm super proud to have been a contributing author to a book called Lives Lost and Leadership Found, Lessons from Special Somebodies, a book from one of my mentors, Ian Ziskin, who pulled us together. And in reflecting on my favorite leadership story in the Walgreens instance, it was a lot of the stuff that I learned from my dad. Let's go try something. May not be obvious. Let's keep at it. If we approach things with joy and gratitude, often we'll get a lot right. We'll get some stuff wrong, but ultimately we'll become better people on the other side of it, and better leaders.
Tell us more about your dad.
Oh, my dad, what a quirky and wonderful human. So my dad, Julius, he passed away in 2019. And provided the opportunity in the book to really reflect on some of the lessons that I gleaned from him. He was someone who was diagnosed with a autoimmune disease called multiple sclerosis. Impacts the kind of the myelin sheath of your nerves, like the rubber. If you think about it like an electrical wiring, it's kind of the rubber coating gets eroded over time. And that manifested its way through my childhood. He had it before I was born, with ways in which his body did work well and sometimes did not. But it didn't dull his spirit of all of the things that he found interesting in the world that he still wanted to do. But if he didn't have the hands for them, he would often call myself or my sister over to help. So he didn't have any sons, but he had 2 daughters, and he had a lot of interests. So we were doing anything from, he liked to change the oil in his own car. So I learned how to literally roll under, the car to change oil. We were changing spark plugs. Speaking of electrical wires, we were running electrical wires when really, I think, Jim, we should not have been doing any of those things. Gardening to construction to, he had a phase there where he loved baking his own bread in one of those bread machines that were really popular in the 90s. And we didn't really have a choice. We were just asked for.
You were kind of his hands and feet.
But we were his hands and feet.
Yes.
Yeah. And, at the time, I think I could have approached it feeling pretty frustrated, because it's not how I wanted to spend my time, whether it was the afternoon or the weekend. But as I reflect back, I mean, gosh, confidence is built through competency. And I learned how to do so many things that I probably would not have normally gravitated to, and had a ton of time to spend with my dad, which I think really deepened our relationship, which was really lovely. And I just have a ton of respect for the fact that even though he couldn't do those things, he never complained about it. So he still found moments of joy and levity of, whatever we were building together or trying together in a way that, he took the positives that it gave us the opportunity to grow closer together. But it kind of gave me this spirit of like, well, I don't know how to do that, but I can figure it out or somebody can help.
Yeah.
That was the key themes of my contributing essay of there's something so beautiful just about simple times together, simple conversations, say yes to things that you would ordinarily maybe not be interested in. You never know what you'll learn. And you can find joy in all circumstances, even though the reality of it, it's very difficult to watch a loved one. My heart goes out to those, that might be listening that have a family member dealing with something like multiple sclerosis or Parkinson's and the like. It can be very emotionally hard to watch a loved one kind of lose their day-to-day living functionality. But I just have so much respect for my dad where even though that was the case, he still showed up and had his awful dad jokes and found ways to laugh. And, I remember more joy than I do suffering.
What a great gift he gave you. There's that instinct to protect your kids and try to keep them from having failure. But man, like I had a mentor that said, fail forward fast.
Right.
It's like, man, that's a great gift that you got from him. That's cool. Tell us, so you had a really pretty serious battle with cancer. I read you were given like 50-50 chance of making it. Is that correct?
Yeah. Well, yes. I think there's a couple threads to that story, but you're right. I feel like I am a sort of walking miracle or a bit of a unicorn. And not just because I was a math and HR person, but really because I got diagnosed with this very rare and very serious cancer diagnosis. Really, the odds of me sitting here and talking to you today are far less than 50%. That it was more of a scenario of probably less than 5, if that. However, that was at a time with some limited therapies and the like. My 50-50 story came from I had an adverse drug reaction to one of the cancer medicines that I was on, and through a quite an interesting experience, found myself in a medically induced coma. And that's when they told my husband, we don't actually know if we'll be able to get her out of this medically induced coma. The shots of that happening are probably 50-50 at best at this time.
So how did that shape you as a person? How did that shape you as a leader? What's the impact of going through that?
I just live this life where I'm like, how lucky am I to be dealing with blank? And a lot of times that's a positive experience. Like, how lucky am I that I get the opportunity to show up at a family party or a milestone of my kids. And there's a lot of times where I say, like, how lucky am I to deal with this really tough situation at work? This really stinks. But the alternatives are, I wouldn't be here. So I had a colleague the other day who walked into my office and said, like, are you always like this? Are you always like happy? Like when do you sort of power down and not show up with a bit of a enthusiasm level that seems to be a little bit higher than most? And I said, no, I really am genuinely like this most of the time. I have bad days, of course, but I often think to myself, like, I'm just so fortunate on all of the statistics to be here that I'm willing to kind of lean in even to the roughest days and say, we will figure this out. And I'm willing to kind of approach this with a spirit of, joy and gratitude, because it was on multiple times in that couple, really intense couple years of treatment. That wasn't really something that was thought to be possible.
Do you have to remind yourself of that, or is that so ingrained in terms of the bringing the energy, bringing the positivity. I mean, you've got a great sort of script that you're running on. Do you have to remind yourself of that, or is it so? It was so profound that that energy, that gratitude is just like it's hard coded now.
Well, I am human, so yeah, I think there's two things that really help. Self-awareness in terms of like what brings me energy. I find I'm a better human when I can get to my exercise of choice, which is hot yoga, or even like spiritually staying connected, which is kind of being with people in a faith-based community is really important to me. When I'm not doing those things, I will often turn to my husband and I'll be complaining about everyone. Like, oh, yeah, get a load of this story. And then he'll say, I couldn't help but notice. It seems like everyone's annoying you. Maybe we should get you to a yoga class and let's see if we can perk that spirit back up. So I'm very grateful to, the people in my life, notably my husband, Jeff, who every day is a kind of fantastic life partner who, will pull me up and also keep me accountable to focus on ways to get that and, feel that inspirational perspective because he just knows me so well. I think the other thing is, for good or for bad, I still am in the scenario where I go to the doctor all the time. I'm in a constant monitoring phase. They're not really quite sure what to do with me. There's no standard of practice in terms of how long I should be monitored or not. So one of the considerations, and I'm so grateful to the Brunswick management team, including my Walgreens colleagues too, they're very flexible with where I need to go and how I need to be monitored. And I am at the doctor kind of, I don't want to say all the time, but once a month I'm doing something. I'm in a scanner, I'm giving blood. Although I do like it, Jim, I have to be honest with you. I think I've been in probably like 150 MRI or CT scans over the last couple of years. But I love it when somebody will be like, hello, welcome to the MRI scanning machine. Let me explain to you how this works. And then I can't help but kind of mess with them a little bit because you know what? Life's too short.
Yeah.
So that helps keep it top of mind because it is not something that I did 10 years ago. I've got the next round of scans coming up usually in the next week or two that provide a perspective that I've got to make the appointment, listen to the results, make the next appointment, pay for the medical bills, and that it still keeps it fresh that this is my normal.
Yeah, even that's a gift in a way.
That's right.
3 years ago, I didn't deal with as serious a situation as you, but I dealt with cancer as well, and it is a gift to just kind of see the brevity of, like, really face the brevity of life. No doubt. What's a trait that you look for, or if you could instill a trait in every Brunswick employee, if you could wave a magic wand, what would that trait be and why?
I really think it's this joy of continuous improvement. And the reason that I think that's relevant, it's certainly relevant to our business of what are ways that we can continue to get better every day at what we're doing. We even refreshed our tagline at Brunswick to be next never rests, with this idea of, it's all right. We're just because we did something great or not, we're going to move forward. And there is an energy kind of behind that continuous improvement pulse. And then, of course, we have initiatives and things like that, Lean Six Sigma, and ways to think about CI or continuous improvement kind of tactically. But I also want that for people in their personal life too. I want, all of our employees to feel like they can and are championed for what they're learning or doing outside of the products that they're building here, whether it's mental health and self-reflection, how they're showing up as a parent, what they're learning, relearning. There's so much we could talk about as it relates to the future of technology and AI, but also how do they show up in their communities? What are they exposed to in terms of a new way to think about something? So it drives business results for us if I could wave my magic wand and have everyone feeling committed to doing something better every day through continuous improvement. But it would it would mean a lot to me in terms of my purpose in life if, the employees that I have the great privilege to work here took on that spirit of continuous improvement just to be better humans and better community members and, achieve their own life purpose, whatever that might be. I think there's a great privilege of work, and I think there's a great privilege of life, and it's, to do it better every day.
Understanding your labor market is crucial for successful recruitment. Onin Staffing's Recruitment Strategy Guide provides insights specific to your geographic location and the positions you're hiring for. Our Recruitment Strategy Guide delivers a clear snapshot of your labor market and actionable intel to tackle market-specific challenges. With Onin's expertise, we help you navigate and win in your competitive landscape. Empower your recruiting process with the insights you need. Learn more about Onin's Recruitment Strategy Guide at oninstaffing.com/strategy. Yeah, I mean, we're going to do the time, whether it's 30 years or 70 years or 100 years. We might as well see what we can do with it, right?
That's right.
You touched on AI, and I know you're a pretty technical person in addition to being a warm human. So how do you think technology, automation, AI is going to change Brunswick in, let's say, give a 5-year span? Like, what do you see? How do you see that impacting the business?
Maybe think about it on 3 dimensions. I think the first dimension, if we go back to technology and innovation and product, I brought up earlier this idea of an autonomous boat docking captain, the auto captain that I talked about. So much technology and artificial intelligence in how that solution comes to bear. So if we continue to do what we do best here is we will use the best of machine learning, AI, and different forms of automation to create really great products that service customer pain points, auto docking in this example, other types of boat captaining support and the like. I think the second dimension is because we are the largest and most professionalized, there's a lot of ways in which AI and automation can help make our work processes just more efficient, whether that's in HR in terms of how we process things or finance or marketing or legal or even analytics. Like, we're really trying to challenge our leaders and ourselves of saying, rather than hiring someone else new or rather than investing in something, tell me more about that work process. Could we change that, modernize it, automate it? Could we have it learn from itself? Could we learn alongside it? So agentic AI as an example, we're using that a lot in sort of our customer service initiatives. We have a very large and broad AI strategy here that touches on kind of workplace efficiencies. And then I think the third would be we've got to continue to work on the humans, on how they're going to partner with these technologies. How do they have to change their leadership style? What is really going to matter? And a lot of this is in mindset. It's okay that things are going to be changing. We're going to figure it out. How do you still show up as an empathetic leader? So I think the business of leadership development will be evolving quite a bit over the next couple of years too. And we're seeding that with trying to inspire this kind of mindset of it's okay that things are going to change. It's, we'll be partnering on that together. So I think the question on everybody's minds in the market, Brunswick included, is just like, how much do you invest and how much do you change before the payoffs either aren't there or, we have businesses to run. So we can't, and our margins are what our margins are. So how we choose to make decisions as, the executives and the employees of where we're going to place our bets and how much we can invest in some of these technologies is challenging to kind of get right. But we do a really good job of at least moving things forward and making some progress. But that, I think, is going to be like how, back to my prior analogy, like how lucky are we that we live at this time where we get to solve problems like this. And we don't exactly know what 2030 will look like, but it'll, I can't wait to find out.
It's going to be different.
It's going to be different. And that's okay.
Yeah. All right, let's land it there. We covered the spectrum. So we'll put this in the show notes, and put a link to the book as well. Where can folks connect with you and your company? And we'll put that in. What do you think?
Okay, that sounds great. Yes, LinkedIn is probably the best place in terms of connecting. I would love to link the book. I didn't mention in it, but there's an exercise in the back that takes you through if you want to write your own essay about your special somebody and what you kind of gleaned for them that I think can be very powerful. People could read stories of others, but then use it as a moment of self-reflection. So linking the book and doing that would be awesome.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, Jill. It's been great.
Same.
Yeah. Thank you so much for tuning in, everybody. Until next time, keep it real.
Thank you for listening. This podcast is powered by Onin, the staffing partner delivering real results for manufacturing, logistics, and food processing companies nationwide. To learn more, visit www.oningroup.com. Until next time, keep it real.